Welcome, everyone, to episode 70 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. Love me, hate me, you'll never forget me. I'm your host, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, a man who's greener than the carpet, Kyle Hoagland.
To think that we would use a Dean Malenko quote, as he is the most charismatic Iceman that we know. But anyways, what's going on, everybody? So I had a wonderful time. The last two episodes, we did that in my little studio office type of thing, and it was cool bouncing back and forth. We're now back into our normal caves, doing this over Skype. And I watched this. I actually wanted to give this episode a second look. I know that. When I first talked to you about it, I wasn't a big fan of this particular episode. I went back and I watched it again. I figured I'd give it like the Last Jedi treatment. Like maybe I just didn't see what other people maybe were saying or thinking about it. I watched it again and I hate it more.
Well, that's your first mistake. It's hard enough to get through 70 episodes of Thunder. It's even harder to get through 70 episodes of Thunder a second time.
This is true. Now I'll say this. This is probably only the second episode I've ever rewatched, and yes, it's bad enough. We knew going into this, when we decided that we were going to do this weekly episodic review of WCW Thunder, it wasn't because of how good the show was.
That is true. I mean, we opened up with it is the shitstorm that is WCW Thunder, so we knew what we were getting into, and yet here we are 70 episodes deep, and real deep like this. There's got to be somewhere in existence some sort of I'm not asking for accolades, but there's got to be something. There's got to be something to say about two dudes that just felt like, let's just take the punishment of doing a podcast that nobody wanted to do or probably actually wanted and give it to them anyways. That's what we do, and let's just get into it. It is Thunder 70. It's July 8th, 1999. We are live from Birmingham, Louisiana, or Alabama. Whoops.
I'm gonna say, like, I saw your notes. I'm like, I hope that means Alabama.
Yeah, it sure does mean Alabama, but it's a typo there. And we are 3 days away from Bash at the Beach, Kyle, and we're in the middle of a heat stroke. And we really want to know, can Sting be trusted? And that's the question as we head to Bash at the Beach. But we're gonna open up with our first replay of the night, so we're starting off strong. We're on Nitro. You got Kevin Nash and Tori Wilson talking shit to Sid and Savage. Gorgeous George comes out, but she seems to be with Nash's side now all of a sudden. But then Sting, out of nowhere, he attacks Nash during a match. But then out comes the real Sting, and Nash did not know that. He powerbombs the real Sting. So, oh my God, Kyle, we got a tag team match at Bash at the Beach, and tag partners cannot trust each other. Whew, boy.
I was very disappointed in the fact that Sting couldn't power out of a power bomb. He's a fresh guy coming into the ring, and he just took a power bomb as if he, I look at it from like the perspective of if they were in a match together and Kevin Nash got a good kick to the gut on Sting, he's not going to be able to power bomb him. Sting is, not like worn down enough to take a finisher, but yet he took like the Eddie Guerrero frog splash of power bombs, and it was like the quickest. It was like almost like an out of nowhere power bomb that Kevin Nash could possibly do. Did you also notice too that, so for continuity's sake, we watched that hilarious, unforgettable 4-part saga that was the Macho Man and Kevin Nash talk on the phone,
right?
And at the end of it, Sid tries to hit Nash with the belt. He obviously doesn't. There's a scuffle. Sting comes in, or the fake Sting, whatever you want to say. Well, I guess we'll assume it was the fake Sting. Hits Nash with a belt. They get the Tori Wilson hooded figure, thinking it's Gorgeous George, out of the backseat of that limo, and they drive away. But the last thing you see of Nash is knocked out cold, and the world title is right next to him. It's on the floor, so they left it there. Now we go to this Nitro recap, and Sid is wearing the world title around his waist. So how did he get it back
later and picked it up?
Oh God, all I'm saying is this: if that is the case, poor job of continuity, or bad job of not telling us how did Sid get the title back. Maybe they were still kind of fighting around with it because Gorgeous George is still technically with Nash, and so they stole the belt back again somehow, snuck into his that was never explained. But that just annoyed me that the first thing I saw was that Team Madness still had the belt in their possession when the last time we as the Thunder Buddies saw the big gold belt, it was with Nash.
Fair enough. I mean, it's if you're pointing to continuity errors here on Thunder and Nitro.
I'm doing it to try to keep this episode over 30 minutes. Okay, all right, give me a break.
We do then move to a Kevin Nash promo. He says he just watched back that footage. Says, as a world champion, he has privileges and rights. And this Sunday, he's going to put the world title on the line in the tag team match. So, Sid, you can pin Nash and win the world title. His tag partner, Macho Man, you can pin Nash and get the world title. And Sting,
I'm on board.
And Sting, as Kevin Nash's partner, you can pin Kevin Nash and win the world title.
Dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Who the fuck booked this shit?
I guess Nash, story-wise.
Yeah, fair, true. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, do they come up with it and it's like, oh, that's a great idea. Everybody, there's collusion. Is Sting driving the Hummer? Are him and Nash friends? You know what? We should put out the belt on the line. And also because Sting might also want that belt, let's let him pin his own tag team partner. Great idea, guys.
You think there was somebody who just slowly raised their hand and was like, so how can Sting legally pin his own partner? You have to have a legal man. Well, I guess according to WCW, you don't need legal men in most tag matches. But let's say for the sake of this is the world title, this is a main event and a pay-per-view. You don't want those types of small little fuck-ups, right? This is when you don't fuck that up. So that means that when Nash is in the ring, Sting is not. Sting is not the legal man. How the fuck can he pin anybody, let alone his own partner?
Yeah, don't know. Don't get it.
And you would think there'd be somebody in creative that was like, yeah, that doesn't make any fucking sense, guys. But no, everybody was just like, hell yeah, brother.
Nash then points out two women in the front row with a happy birthday sign. And it cuts over to him, and the one girl's wearing a smokinjoey.com t-shirt. I just have to let you know that website doesn't work. So,
Aw.
Yeah. We then cut to Ric Flair. He's in his office with Arn, Charles Robinson, and Asia. And then Dean Malenko's going to show up. He's going to say Dean's going to call Flair a pussy for backing out of their match because of his back. And he said the only people who should be complaining about hurt backs are the people carrying David Flair in his matches. So Dean really throwing down the disses here. By the way, David Flair is the United States champion, courtesy of Ric Flair.
That was the remember I told you who was going to be U.S. champion. I wasn't going to tell you.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, man. And it wasn't even like he won a match to get it. Ric Flair just gave him the title
to him. And then Ric Flair says, he's gonna have David wrestle whoever he wants him to wrestle. So there's your segment. We then go to our second replay of the night. We find out that Eddie Guerrero says his wallet was stolen. He's going to get head of security Doug Dillinger involved to figure out who stole his wallet. He tells Doug that it was somebody in a luchador mask. So then Doug lines up all the luchador jabronis, makes them unmask because, of course, if he saw them wearing a mask, why wouldn't you take the mask off to figure out the lineup?
And you said that Eddie Guerrero didn't have a storyline.
Eddie then kind of laughs at all of them, including Blitzkrieg. And apologizes and says it must have been another masked wrestler. We then move to our opening bout of the night. It is the aforementioned Eddie Guerrero wrestling Lenny Lane, who's accompanied to the ring by Lodi. Lodi having a great sign here that says, if you can read this sign, you are not from Alabama, which made me chuckle. The ref gets it knocked out early. Lodi's going to come in for a double team. Out come all those masked luchadors. They beat the shit out of Eddie. The fans are booing, which means Eddie's a face all of a sudden. I'm not sure
I think since he's been back, I think the people, because they've missed him, whether he was a good guy or a bad guy, I think people are just happy to have him back, and he has been getting cheered.
But I feel like he's not a face in the storylines right now.
Oh, I don't know what he's not really anything. He's kind of a goofball. Like his whole the wallet being stolen and messing with the lucha,
but I mean,
with the
he's
luchadors.
going against all the LWO. I mean, I just feel like he's trying to be the heel that he was beforehand, but I don't know.
But I feel like in order to be a good heel, you either need to be going after the crowd, which he's not, or be feuding with a big babyface, which he's not. So he's in this weird kind of purgatory. But once again, all the matches that he's in, the crowd wants Eddie.
Sure.
It's clear that they're
he's
popping for Eddie.
Lenny fucking Lane.
That's what I'm saying, though. And Lenny Lane in this case is a heel.
And Lenny Lane is also the victor heel in this match. I didn't rate it because there really wasn't much of a match here. But I was happy that despite all the ref being knocked out, they actually had Lenny Lane win the match. So kudos to that.
Yeah, I was okay with that. And I think we talked about that last episode where it's so much easier to still just give a win to somebody, it doesn't make anybody look worse for it.
I was going to say, nobody, Eddie does not look any worse for losing to Lenny Lane in the manner that he lost.
Exactly.
After this, we got Jimmy Hart. He's talking to La Parka and Silver King. He's starting at Bash at the Beach this Sunday, a hardcore invitational, and is asking La Parka and Silver King to be part of it because when you think hardcore, you think La Parka and Silver King.
I can go with La Parka just because he always walks around with a chair. Silver King, once again, is the dad bod cowboy luchador. So, of course, yeah, that's hardcore. Also, didn't Flair say there were no more hardcore matches?
He did,
and
but
now there's an invitational at the pay-per-view?
Yeah, who knows?
Is it because it's technically not in the ring? Is that what Flair said?
So, actually, what ends up happening is it's not sanctioned by WCW.
Right, which is why I was trying to figure out, why is Jimmy Hart getting this together? It's like Jimmy Hart is getting this match together, which means he still has to get – I always love unsanctioned matches because it's like WCW or WWE, whoever's doing, the pay-per-view, still has to sign off on the TV time to put it on their airwaves, you know what I mean, to put it on their show.
Right.
But it's unsanctioned. To me, that's always felt like the biggest hypocritical match to have. It's like, look, you guys can have your match, but we're not responsible if somebody gets hurt or, if basically we have nothing to do with this. This doesn't affect anybody's either. Right. It's almost like you're not getting paid. We're not going to, this is just completely up to you guys. And I've always found that unsanctioned just means there's nothing about this match that is furthering anyone's career. This is a 100% personal, and that's the only time where I guess the unsanctioned match is kind of cool because it feels like you're not trying to further your career. You're trying to hurt somebody. And I guess that's why this exists. But you would think that the winner of the Hardcore Invitational would like to think that, if I'm going to put my body on the line, in some cases my life on the line, shorten my career, but yet because it's unsanctioned, it absolutely has nothing to do with my, betterment as far as furthering my career with this company. Why would anybody want to be in this invitational if ultimately WCW will not recognize it? The company that pays them.
Hey, sometimes it's just about pride. You can't put a.
It's about the love of the game.
That's right. After this, we get Mean Gene interviewing Disco Inferno. We find out Disco has a match with the Cat this Sunday. He says that Ernest the Cat sucks and learned his karate from infomercials. And then says he's going to give the Cat a good old Brooklyn, New York tushy kicking.
Which is now I think the second time we've heard that, and I'm not sure whether or not he's trying to get that to stick. It's too many words, man. You want a catchphrase, you got to have something that's a little bit more. It's got to roll off the tongue a little bit better than a good old fashioned Brooklyn, New York style tushy kicking.
Yes, it does. The next match we got Al Green showing up. He does get an entrance, so good for Al Green.
Good for Al Green. Former world heavyweight #1 contender.
That's right. He'll be wrestling Van Hammer, who we find out is the #1 contender for the television title. So congrats, Van Hammer, who has another attire change in this match. And he's going to Cobra Clutch Slam Al Green for the win. I gave the match a 1 3/4 because it was a Van Hammer squash match.
So it's as good as a Goldberg match, right? So I gave it a 1 3/4. A quick squash, not much to the match. Van Hammer looked strong, though. I mean, he looked for the most part that he dominated Al Green, a former number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. So, I mean, that's not nothing. And I was actually fine with it. It was good to have him in the ring because I think he got the number one contendership opportunity on Nitro, on the past Nitro. So I did want to see him in the ring at least once. Obviously, there's nothing with him and Steiner. Like, they're not feuding in any way, shape, or form. They're just, it's just the title match.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that said, things heat up after the match as Rick Steiner comes out and beats down Van Hammer.
Right, because they have to, because they didn't have time to build anything for this match. Like he literally found out on Nitro, middle of Nitro, that he's got this match, and nothing happened on that Nitro, so they had to just have a quick little 30-second beatdown just to put a little heat on Steiner. And now, oh my God, Van Hammer is a face.
We then cut back to Jimmy Hart, who's trying to get more people into this Hardcore Invitational, and his next combatant, Horace. So,
which once again, hey man, no, a lot of people forget about the stop sign. So true. I mean, there is some hardcore aspects to Horace.
That's when he's good old Horace Boulder.
That's right.
Then we take a look into Bret Hart. We got Mike today narrating Bret Hart's time in WCW as they talk about Owen's death in the article Bret had in the Calgary Sun. And Mike today tells Bret that he'll always have WCW.
Even though the entire thing starts with, his time in WCW has been tumultuous at best. It's like you're not selling the fact that he's part of this company and once again, he was being it's true. It's a very honest, I guess, look at Bret Hart's time in WCW, and I think that anybody who is any type of wrestling historian will agree that they just didn't know what to do with Bret Hart. And I don't think they really ever did kind of figure it out until it was way too late, as far as WCW's, time left on this earth. I just felt like that was just a weird thing for WCW to admit.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it was tough. We then had a replay of Bret on Nitro, thanking everyone for the support. They play some really fucking epic music over Bret.
Dude, I don't get it. That was way too much.
It was really weird. But they're playing this music as Bret talks about Owen and what he meant to, everyone. And Bret continues to contemplate whether he's done with wrestling, and then thanks everyone, and that's it. So
the music reminds me of, and once again, not everyone's gonna understand this, but it's like if the Rock soundtrack was being played while this was going, or maybe
just like
less,
an action movie.
Yeah, or if you were loading up Rainbow Six, the video game, and it was you were just sitting on the load screen. It was just this really over the top,
instrumental,
climactic. It was
not the music you'd be playing when you're discussing your brother's death.
Exactly. You know what music would really work for that? No fucking music.
How about none? We then get our Saturday night promo. We got Steven Regal, the First Family. The Luchadors. We got Saturn, Benoit, Malenko, Ray, and Conan. The Wyndhams are going to be there, so all kinds of madness as we would really head towards Bash at the Beach. We then have Fit Finlay and Brian Knobbs. The match doesn't last too long after Finlay and Knobbs kind of beat the shit out of each other on the outside as Hugh Morris and Jerry Flynn come in. They start battling. Regal comes out. So does Dave Taylor. So do the Luchadors. And we get a preview, Kyle, of what could happen this Sunday. Horace shows up as well. And we've got Horace and Knobbs battling. I mean, I don't know about you, but I am ready for that Hardcore Invitational.
I don't think anyone's ready for this Hardcore Invitational. You might think that your mind's ready for it, but our bodies are not.
Yeah. We then have Mean Gene. He's in the ring. He's got Ric Flair and the board of directors, which of course is Piper, David Flair, Asia, Charles Robinson, and Arn Anderson. Piper's going to cut a promo about Buff and how he's going to bite his head off. We also find out, I think at this point, that there's a boxing match that's going to be taking place between Buff and Roddy Piper, which...
Yes.
Well, okay.
It's never sucked before, right?
Right.
There's been tons of boxing ideas in professional wrestling, and they've always been great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I know what I always loved about the old-fashioned wrestlers is they're being handed a very sophisticated piece of sound amplification equipment, such as a mic, and they still insist on yelling so loud into it that anybody in that arena could have heard them without the mic. It was, and I know I think Roddy Piper has always screamed into a mic in his entire career. Flair is the embodiment of screaming into a microphone, but I don't know what it was about this particular one, but Roddy Piper like amplified it even higher than I ever heard him scream into a mic. And maybe it was because a boxing match with Buff Bagwell, with Judy Bagwell in Buff's corner, is not enough to sell on its own, shockingly.
Who would have thought?
So then Piper has to add octaves to his own voice in order to let everybody know that this is going to be, like a rough and tumble, spectacle where he's going to bite fucking, what do you say? He's going to bite his head off. It's going to be, it's going to be epic. I've seen this match. It's fucking dog shit. But yeah, he had to sell it even more than I'm sure he probably would have wanted to.
Yeah. We then get Flair cuts his promo and tells Flair or Piper that Asia wants to look under that kilt. And
apparently she wants to know what a fake hip looks like.
We then have our music video for the Rap is Crap, I Hate Rap. I'm pretty sure it's pretty much same promo we saw last week. We then got Disco Inferno and Kidman in a match. We find out Goldberg is back on Nitro, so good to see that Goldberg's back.
By the way, before we go any further, did you also like in that promo that it looked like Flair was like dicking over Dean Malenko and like basically saying, "Hey, I'm not going to wrestle you now," and Dean Malenko's like pissed because now he doesn't have a match, and now he's been upgraded to a U.S. title match.
Hey, yeah, it works out well, I guess, right?
It worked. I just didn't understand that. Like, it looked like they were feuding. Like, you would think if you don't like somebody, why would you be like, "Oh, then you get to wrestle my son for the U.S. title"?
Fucking.
That's not that. That's a weird way to punish
right
your former combatant.
Maybe there's
at the
ulterior motives. All right,
we'll see, I guess. But I'm gonna go with doubtful.
Like I said, though, Goldberg returned on Nitro, so Goldberg's back. This is also where they talk more about David Flair being handed that U.S. title. But in the middle of this Disco Inferno Kidman match, we cut to the back. We find out Steven Regal is going to be joining the Hardcore Invitational on Sunday, so we can add Regal to that list of characters.
Which makes no sense because he's fighting his own dudes.
Well, the Cat and Sudiono come out. The Cat has his red shoes. The Cat's going to kick Kidman. As you can imagine, there's interference. I gave the match 2 stars. I thought it was fine, but and just pretty much predictable knowing that Disco and the Cat were going to have a match, that there was going to be some shenanigans here.
I agree. I actually gave this 2 1/4. I'm glad to finally rate a fucking match. That's kind of nice.
Right.
Yeah, it ended DQ, which I can understand. I think protecting Kidman is like the new take a shot lately. That Kidman hasn't been winning any matches, but he also hasn't been losing outright to anybody where he doesn't look bad. So he gets getting put into matches where he shouldn't win them because he's going up against bigger stars, and then the match kind of ends in DQ, or he's in a match against somebody who has, I don't know. I mean, if you look at it, I don't know if Kidman wrestles at the pay-per-view, but Disco does. So you would think that in this particular scenario, Disco should go over because he actually has a match, or there's going to be shenanigans, which there are, which results in Kidman getting the win by DQ, which once again, that's how you protect Kidman while still giving Disco, or while still making that look like Kidman was about to beat Disco. It's once again, nobody looks good or bad in this. But here's another thing. Here's a match that was announced on Thunder. This was booked on Thunder. There is no ill words, ill will, ill anything between Disco Inferno and the Cat, except Disco Inferno, now that he knows he's fighting the Cat, decides to talk shit about the Cat. And the only reason why is because he's wrestling him. Not because of any other reason. This is a brand new storyline that they had to paper mache into an existence within like the first hour of a the B show on TBS. So I'll have more to talk about this later, but not a fan of the formula.
Yeah, we can discuss it here shortly. After this, we get DDP, Canyon, and Bam Bam come out. They're going to cut a promo where DDP says, we see this replay of Benoit pulling Saturn or putting Saturn on DDP, but Canyon stops it, so DDP didn't lose the match. DDP apologizes that Bam Bam got triple teamed at one point, and then says that he and Benoit were not the legal men, which is actually a legit argument and something we argue about every week here when there's not the legit men making pins. And then, of course, they end with the bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, which I actually think is kind of clever for the triad.
I didn't even recognize, maybe because in late 99 or mid 99, I think I was more 80-20 WWF at this point. I'm sure I was watching a little bit, but it was definitely, at this point, WWF just was a much better product.
Oh, that's fair. We then have Canyon and Chris Benoit. We find out that Randy Savage, who they've been talking about all night, was going to have a promo, is not allowed on TBS tonight. So we got that.
So just to add on to that, so this is a live show.
Correct.
They teased towards the beginning of the show that Savage was on his way to the arena and he'll be here. He's going to have some stuff to say. And I tried looking everywhere to figure out what happened to Savage.
Yep.
Because I know I think we joked I think on the first episode it took forever for Macho Man to come out, and we just joked saying that he was just taking a big old shit and couldn't get out. What I read about this was that Macho Man had some sort of stomach spasm about 45 minutes before he was while he was on his way. He was actually at the arena, but when he got there, he just was overcome, and he wouldn't have been able to do anything in the ring or talk much because it was that bad.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. But that would explain it. I felt like something had to happen. We then, as for the match, Benoit blows his snot rockets on Canyon, which I still think might be the grossest thing I ever see in wrestling. We go to backstage, and Mikey Ripwreck has been invited to the Hardcore Invitational, so we can add him to the list. The match itself, a lot of good offense from both, back and forth. You get the Dragon Suplex from Benoit, a Superplex from Benoit, but ultimately Bigelow is going to come out. He has the tag title, but Benoit's going to reverse it. Bigelow and Canyon collide. Bigelow stops Benoit from doing a top rope diving headbutts. Saturn's going to come out. Him and Bam Bam are going to get into it. We got a crossface on Canyon. Bam Bam is going to go to the top to do his flying diving headbutt, but Benoit's going to move. Benoit then goes and hits his diving headbutt. He gets the 3 count as DDP is not able to make it in to break it up in time. And then Diamond Cutter from DDP to Benoit and the referee. So I gave the match 2 3/4 stars. I thought even with the chaos, the match was entertaining. The finish was kind of a clusterfuck, but they let it end. So good for that. But you have Canyon and Chris Benoit. They're 2 good workers, and they, even with all the chaos around it, I thought it was a good match, and they kind of told the story they're trying to tell.
I love the beginning of this match where Canyon was just chicken shittingly trying to not get chopped. Which, I'm sorry, if I was Canyon and I had to fight Chris Benoit, I would just be covering my chest the entire fucking match. Because Chris Benoit does not hold back on chops. In fact, there was a particular one, I think towards the middle or kind of like middle beginning, where he chops the ever-living fuck out of Canyon. There was a point, I think, where Canyon he was being thrown to the corner, and Canyon kind of like jumped up to try to jump over Benoit if Benoit was trying to, charge forward, but Benoit never did. And so he waited for Canyon to finish doing his little leap, and then Canyon turned around, and he just got chopped, and it was one of the loudest chops I've ever heard. And it was just there's very few things in wrestling that are more satisfying to hear than a good old just loud ass chop. And this had a couple really good ones. I gave this 2 3/4. I would have put this near the 3-star range. But it was a simple grudge match that didn't even include any of the guys who are defending the title at the pay-per-view. So it was really Benoit's fighting the lackey of the three, if you think about it. And it was a little bit overbooked to my liking. You know, everyone and their mother coming out. They had Mikey Whipwreck split screen for whatever reason. But other than that, the match was just a wrestling gem. I loved it. It was over 10 minutes in length, which was basically the running time of all the other matches that we've watched combined. So that's not nothing. I think the average match length of the other ones has been 2 to 2.5 minutes. This isn't even the main event, and I know what the main event is, and I feel like this probably should have been the main event.
Yeah, it absolutely should have been the main event. But instead, we get Konnan versus Curt Hennig. That said, Curt Hennig was accompanied by the rest of the West Texas Rednecks. Konnan was joined by a lot of the No Limit Soldiers. And with all these men outside, it felt like a lumberjack match and basically broke down into everyone fighting everyone. Konnan has the Tequila Sunrise on, but the ref doesn't see it. Barry Windham hits Konnan in the head with the cowbell. And that's going to be how Curt Hennig's going to win over Konnan. I gave the match a star 3/4. The only thing positive I could say is they didn't end it in a DQ. They gave the heels some heat as we head into Sunday. But other than that, after watching Kanyon and Benoit, we see this. It was a letdown of a main event.
I agree. I also gave it a star 3/4. Definitely wasn't main event material, especially considering what we just saw beforehand. It's not even like I don't even think the match was bad per se. I think it was necessary. It was good to push the story forward. It's all about, are we pushing the needle forward? And I think this did. Also, Pee Wee Anderson, you're on my shit list, man. Like, you're on the Mickey J shit list. So let's get something straight. It's Curt Hennig versus Konnan. They're fighting in the ring. And then I think at some point Konnan gets thrown out of the ring, and the Texas Rednecks start to beat him up. Right there, that feels like that's a DQ, right? You can't just have 4 guys just beating the ever-living shit out of somebody.
So. Yeah.
But they let it go because there's, all the No Limit Soldiers kind of save Konnan. Konnan gets back in the ring. So now the 2 legal men are in the ring while the other, 6 guys are kind of duking it out. By the way, Chase Tatum is in the No Limit Soldiers.
Was that Chase Tatum, the big white dude, the big Jack?
Yeah,
guy?
Well, it's not fucking Brad Armstrong. That doesn't look like Brad. I saw this chiseled fucking shit brick house, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? And then I look up all the members of the No Limit Soldiers in the history, which I think the history is roughly almost over now. I think it's like one more month after this. It's Chase Tatum. And for those who don't remember Chase Tatum, he was a guy that we all thought had like an amazing look, almost had like a Brock Lesnar type of look to him, but then ultimately got squashed by Scott Steiner on Thunder. But yeah, he's in there. So he's fighting in there. So it was just a really, it was bedlam on the outside, but the ref has the 2 legal guys in the ring and they're still fighting. And yet Pee Wee Anderson decides to just show his back to the legal participants to deal with whatever's going on the outside. It's like, dude, don't worry about that. That's not your job. Like to deal with them. Like, you're dealing with the 2 legal guys in the ring, which then, like I said, gives I think it was Barry Windham hitting the cowbell on Konnan. Curt Hennig then once again, Anderson decides to turn around when it's time to do it. I'm okay with the finish. I don't like the way that the ref was voluntarily being distracted by himself. Instead of like having somebody on the apron, where if someone's on the apron, then yeah, the ref has to get him away. But these guys are all fighting up against the guardrail on the floor, and there's no reason for Pee Wee to even give a shit about any of that. And once again, I know I'm splitting hairs here about referees and what their responsibility is supposed to be. I just felt like it was kind of lazy writing to be like, oh, like the way we're going to distract it is just Randy Anderson just is going to look at a bunch of people that aren't part of the match and aren't even on the apron to just let them just fight each other, fight it out while Randy Anderson just watches them. I just thought it was stupid.
Well, that was the show. So what did you think about this Thunder 70?
It's not on the I fucking hated it realm, because there is at least some saving grace, which was the Benoit Canyon match. The rest of the show felt hurried and without substance, which you don't want at all for a go-home show. Every match had some sort of run-in of some sort, which also sucks. I don't like that. I understand it if you do it a little bit here and there, but it's almost like they heard us when we're like, I don't like there's so many DQ finishes. They're like, fine, we're not gonna do DQ finishes, but now we're gonna have every match have a run-in, so that the match then is concluded, but with shenanigans. And it's like it's like laziness is being replaced with laziness, just to get more people on the show. Once again, like I think we've complained in the past about overbooking, and this is kind of what's going on here. Like I get it for pushing some narrative, but it's once again lazy writing. You have Jimmy Hart hurting people throughout the night for a match that I was not aware he was in charge of, but apparently he is because it's not sanctioned. I was also curious of whether or not this particular idea was conceived on Thunder, or if it was mentioned on Nitro and then continued on to Thunder. We also had only one match that went over 4 minutes, which is kind of pathetic and once again lazy. But once again, if everything is going to be just a run-in, then what's the point in having these guys go 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, when the conclusion is someone's just going to come from the back? Why hurt people? Like, if you go longer, the longer you go, the longer someone could maybe accidentally, botch something, someone gets hurt, and why waste that on a match where the match feels kind of unnecessary to have anyways? We always know that a quarter of the show is going to be Nitro recap, so we kind of just understand that. But I did not like the match additions and changes on the go home show of Thunder. It kind of sucks. First of all, once again, Thunder is not Nitro. I'm pretty sure we all understand that. And there's not enough time to get me interested in the Cat versus Disco, or hey, now the world title's on the line in the main event. What else did I have here? Van Hammer versus Steiner. Even though we got that on Nitro, but we got Steiner coming and just beating up Van Hammer just to let the crowd know, hey, we're fighting on Sunday. Like that kind of sucks. Van Hammer versus Steiner sucks, but give me something else. Then you get David Flair and Malenko U.S. title match announced on this Thunder. So the world title and the U.S. title were announced as being on the line in a final booking on this Thunder 3 days before the pay-per-view, which I personally, and I understand the whole, expect the unexpected and anything can happen. But for a pay-per-view, you gotta sell me the story a little bit, and they're not. And the main event, the main event has a change stipulation, which who knows if anybody watched that on Thunder? I might have watched Nitro and then didn't have a chance to watch Thunder, and now I'm gonna watch the pay-per-view and be like, wait, Sting can win the world title? Wait, the world title's on the line? When did this happen? Like I said, I understand that they want the show to be a must-see, but it could have been done in a better way. The idea of Sting pinning his own partner makes no fucking sense.
A lot to digest there, but I think I liked the Thunder better than you, but I agree with a lot of your statements. I mean, outside of Canyon and Benoit, the matches were garbage. However, there was a lot. I felt like for a Thunder Go Home edition, they pushed a lot of stuff, which I was happy with because ultimately this is the last thing you're watching before you decide whether you're buying Bash at the Beach. And let me just tell you, you shouldn't buy Bash at the Beach. I almost want to unsubscribe from the network just to not watch Bash at the Beach out of principle. But that said, we get the Hardcore Invitational, so they created an entire thing, I think pretty much on this Thunder. They put the stipulation of the world title on the line, which was stupid as fuck. But hey, you know what? It happened on Thunder, so that made all this stuff happens because of Thunder. So it made Thunder worthwhile, even though it was all garbage stipulations and stuff. But for that reason, I'm just happy that they made the Go Home edition mean something. And they pushed West Texas Rednecks versus the No Limit Soldiers. They pushed the Cat and Disco. I mean, Rick Steiner and Van Hammer had a moment. So And then obviously, the Jersey Triad was there. And, as garbage as most of the matches were, and as garbage as the stipulations are, and how garbage this pay-per-view is going to be, at least Thunder meant something. And for that, I can appreciate it.
And at least also we found out that Larry Zbyszko does not know what a snowball is. We also found that on this show.
Yeah, well, so I agree with most of what you said, but at the end of the day, all I ask for a go-home show on Thunder, especially 70 episodes in, is just make it mean something. And for that, kudos. That said, that is our show this week. If you haven't yet subscribed, go do that. Leave us a rating. Let us know how we are doing. I mean, we've reviewed 70 episodes for you guys already, whether you like it or not. Give us a follow on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, at Thundercraps. And, of course, you go to thundercraps.com for all of our previous 69 and counting episodes. And then go check out Bash at the Beach 1999, but really don't. Just save yourself. Go read the wiki results because it's just not going to be worth it. And then watch Thunder 71, the real main event, July 15th, 1999. And we will be back here reviewing that next week. For Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are Chase Tatumly out of time. See ya.